Hello and welcome to the Ultimate GTA 4 guide. This video will set you up for a downgraded directory with the most optimal settings for both performance and stability. Now everything in the script for this video was written out, so everything should be watched and followed, so even if you're experienced, I wouldn't suggest skipping ahead. Now before this video actually begins, I'm going to go over some of the requirements that you should follow. The first one is to have GTA 4 on PC from Steam. I say from Steam because there's like totally legit copies out there that may cause issues, so I just suggest getting the game on Steam. The next thing is to have at least 60 or more gigabytes free on your game drive. The game itself is 22 gigabytes, but you don't want your drive to be in the red zone because this can make games, programs, really anything stutter. We'll also be making a single backup of the game later, so in total this will cost 44 gigabytes. You also want to have Windows 7 or above, but ideally you'll want to have the latest Windows 10 version deep loaded. A guide for that can be found in the description. The second to last requirement is to have an archiving tool. I recommend 7-Zip. I'll talk about more on why I prefer 7-Zip later on when I actually install it. Now the final requirement is to just simply update all of your drivers. For AMD, I've heard you always want the latest, but for NVIDIA GPUs, those are really bloated and they're also really inconsistent, especially for GTA 4. So I'll have a link in the description for an NVIDIA GPU installation that's debloated, but if you don't trust it, you can just use the normal installations. Now, if you have any issues with GTA 4 after installing drivers, you may want to go back a driver or something like that. And now let's just get started with the video. Now before we actually install GTA 4, we're going to have to make sure of some things. The first thing is to make sure your game is not in a system folder. The best way to make sure of this is to just right click the game on Steam, click properties, and then click local files and then browse. Now just click the top right here and then you can see the directory where it's at. You don't want this to be in a program files or program files x86 folder. Now if that is the case, be sure to click Steam settings, click on downloads, Steam library folders, then click add library folder and then add that into a non-system folder. Now if you get an error from this that says it can't be on the same drive or anything like that, then you can try this GitHub link, or you can try to make a partition on your drive. The GitHub link I haven't tried myself, so use it with caution. Now that that's set up, just uninstall your game. Click on right click it, click manage, uninstall. The reason why you want to do this is to get rid of any modded files. This is my directory. This is completely fresh, but let's say I had a bunch of shit in here like script hook, scripts folder, and just a bunch of random shit that I wouldn't want. Basically, you'd want to uninstall the game from Steam and then go into the directory and delete everything just to make sure it's completely fresh by the time you're done downloading it. Another thing you're going to want to do before you actually follow this video is you're going to want to set an antivirus exclusion onto your game's directory as well as into your downloads folder. You can remove the exclusion to your downloads folder later after you follow this video, but just make sure to do it beforehand as there is some false positives in the downgrade. For Windows Defender or Windows Security now, just open it up real quick, head to Virus and Threat Protection, head to Manage Settings, and then set the exclusion right here at Add or Remove Exclusions. I have a bunch of shit right here for, Fallout, GTA. It's really important as even games, like I said, Fallout, have issues like this where there's tons of false positives, so you just want to set an antivirus exclusion there. And now after that's done, you can download the game. I'm not going to do it because my internet's way too slow. It would take 20 years. But yeah, you just want to download the game by this point. And now while that's downloading, I'm going to go over some key terminology. The first one is game's main directory. This is referring to your GTA 4's location, aka where we were earlier. An example of this would be right here. This is where my game's main directory is located. And the next one is extension. The other name for it would be file name extension. This is only really important for a few parts in this guide, but it's useful to know for even just general computer use. Basically what this is this. You see this .exe part? I'm going to go ahead and turn off file name extensions, and you can't see it, right? It's better to have it on so you can just know what everything is. You can just check the type, but it's just easier to do it like this. And another difference is, let's say I make a command line file right here. Right, and then I turn this shit off, you can't see that it's a txt. So if I renamed it to commandline.txt, it would be commandline.txt.txt. It's just really fucking stupid to have. Another example would be this. You can see a .txt, a .ini, and then you disable it. You can't see it, but you'd have to check the type, but this is just... Why even have this? It's just easier to turn it on anyways. Now to actually enable it, you want to click View at the top of your file explorer and then check this box. I would also highly recommend enabling this because there's some just folders in your computer that you can't access because they're hidden. The next one is vanilla. This means there's no changes. So basically this, I just downloaded this basically. So there's no changes, it's just completely fresh. This is vanilla. This is what I will be referring to whenever I say vanilla. Some people say with or without a downgrade, which we will be downgrading the game later, but I just refer to it when it's downgraded or not. I just basically mean no mods. So just keep in mind that vanilla means not modded. And now when the game is done, you want to actually run the game once. It'll install Rockstar Games Launcher, so if you really don't want to do that, then I'll have a link in the description that'll take you to this DirectX thing, and then there'll be a file in the downgrader that you could run. I just run the game first at least once to prevent all issues, but it's really up to you. And now that the game is done, you basically just want to make a backup of this. If you don't know what a backup is, it's basically a copy of a vanilla directory. So if you mod any files and you need the vanilla ones back, like if you just don't like the mod or some shit, then you'll have the copy of the vanilla files, so you can just copy and paste them from the backup into your modded directory. And an issue with GTA 4 modding is that there's not something like how GTSA has a mod loader, which if you don't know what that means, it basically adds files rather than replacing them. But we don't have that with GTA 4, so we have to actually replace files, and that just really sucks. So we're going to make a backup real quick. To do this, just head to your games directory, go backup folder so you're in Grand Theft Auto IV, click on this, home, and then you can just copy and then paste. It'll automatically rename the copied folder to GTA-copy or some shit like that. Now while this does its thing, which it can take 5 minutes or it can take like 30 minutes or more, it just kind of depends on how fast your drive is. But I'm just going to talk about radio downgrading. So radio downgrading, there's going to be 2 versions in the description. Now I'm just having this Steam guide for me personally because it's easier to read. So basically, there's 2 versions. One is a new downgrader, which will have 2 issues. One being that there's the wrong station mentioned during taxi rides, and the other one is that you can't switch to Independence FM while you're in a multiplayer lobby, which both of these issues, I doubt people even know that there's stations mentioned during taxi rides. Like if you have a taxi ride, if you're in a taxi, and then you change the station while you're going somewhere, Nico will be like, yo dude, change it to like Radio Broker, or some shit like that. It'll basically say the wrong one. If you use the legacy one, it won't have these 2 issues, but it also won't have RAM jam, self-actualization, and Vice City FM. And those were basically the only issues for the new radio downgrader, so I'm just going to get the new one because I don't give a fuck about that. You want to go to this link in the description and click download. Then you just want to click download again, and it'll download the super spooky 666 file. And now the next thing you're going to want to get is the downgrader. There will be a link in the description for this Go file link, as well as a mirror link, mirror link is basically an alternative link for the main one, which is just the same shit. It's just in case this one goes down. When you go to this Go file link, I put patch notes if you're like in the future or some shit. So if anything changes, just check here. Anyways, we're going to downgrade the game. Now, the reason why we downgrade the game is just so we don't have to rely on any like Rockstar Games Launcher bullshit or anything like that, and just so we can install some patches that are in the downgrader, which will improve performance and even visuals. Now, if you're really scared that this is a virus, you can upload it to VirusTotal or just Hybrid Analysis, which Hybrid Analysis is better than VirusTotal. But as you can see, this is not a virus. The ones that do detect it are just random obscure antiviruses, except Bitdefender Theta, I think. I don't know what the Theta part is. Anyways, this is just, it's not a virus. And now while these are downloading, this is where you're going to want to get an archiving program, which I mentioned in the requirement section. I just use 7-Zip because I think it's the best thing. Now the reason being is that 7-Zip doesn't have an annoying message when you first open it, like every single time. Now you can just compare them right here. You can see 7-Zip, it has all these extension formats, and then this one only has these. Anyway, just get 7-Zip and install it. Now whenever you open up one of these files, it should open up and look like this. Now before we continue, we're going to make a command line file. A command line file just gives the game's commands to use, such as windowed mode and stuff like that. So to do this, right click your game, go to new text document, and just put command line and press enter. So I just recommend doing a command line file and then running from playgtiv.exe or directly from Steam right here. But yeah, now we're just going to downgrade the radio and the game. Now I'm just going to note that downgrading the radio technically isn't required, but I highly suggest it as the new music is just trash, and I'm pretty sure there's some that were made after 2008, so it doesn't even make sense lore-wise. Now if you're on the legacy downgrader, you won't have these 2 folders. But yeah, if you're on the new downgrader, just hold Control and left click to deselect these, and then afterwards drag it into your main directory. And now you'll be asked to replace, just click on replace, and then just run install.bat. Now this also depends on your drive. This can take like a while, or it can take a few minutes. If it closes right when you open it, then you might have to move your games directory somewhere else. and then try again. And I believe there's also an issue where it says there's like you can't write to disk or some weird error. I don't remember exactly, but then if that happens, try to move your game somewhere else, and if it still happens, try the legacy downgrader. Now when the command prompt closes and you're running the new downgrader, make sure to head into the file again, and then you'll see with new value of stock and without new value of stock. Now with new value of stock basically means the new garbage songs will play along with the older ones. And I just mean the Russian one, I don't mean the dance music from EFLC. Now without new of course means without it. Now I hate the new music, it just sounds like shit, so I'm just gonna head into without new and drag it into my main directory and then replace when I'm asked to. Now that's done, just go ahead and open up the GTA 4 game downgrader. You'll see this stuff right here. If you're not going to play multiplayer, you can ignore this installer. And just to be safe, go ahead and run this VC Redis file. You can run it directly from the file as it just dumps it into a temp folder, but it will install. Just click on yes and then go through the install. And now when it's done, we're going to actually downgrade the game. Now this is actually where you're going to have to make a choice. If you're going to be modding the game, I'd suggest 1070 as some scripts don't actually work on 1080. But if you're going to play base GTA 4, like just vanilla, only this guide, then try 1080. Especially if you have higher than 2 gigabytes of VRAM, it can be better for performance. But there's also a rare issue where 1080 will run way worse than 1070. But yeah, I'm just going to do 1070. But whatever version you choose, go into that folder, select everything, and dump it into your main directory. Now you will be asked to replace, and you may also get this warning right here. Now since we added an exclusion, it should not remove anything. So I'm just gonna do, I'm just gonna click this and allow on device, but it doesn't really matter. You shouldn't touch it at all. Also, if you want to go back from 1080 to 1070, then make sure to delete scripthook.dll. Now that that's done, I'm gonna go over some optional shit you can do. The first one is just an optional cleanup that you can do on your directory, which is to just simply delete redistributables and manuals folder. And that's it. It just makes it a little bit cleaner. I think it's just better looking. Now the next one is the game is just really loud by default. Now what I like to do to avoid this is to right click, new text document, and then name it command line, and then open it up. Now you may be using normal notepad, which may look different, but you'll still do the same shit. Just type in -windowed and then save. And now you're going to want to run this. Or if you're on the Steam version, which you should be, just run from play. Now before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and open up Sound Mixer options. If you're on an older Windows 10 version, you'll do Volume Mixer. Just open that shit up. And then you're not going to see GTA 4 yet because it's not open. So just click play and then it'll load up. It's going to be really loud at first. Now your game might be shit res, but don't worry about it. Just make sure this is low. I like to go between 11 and 20. And now it shouldn't be super loud. Now the reason why we do it through Volume Mixer and not through the game is because these sliders right here, these do not adjust the loading screen sounds, which is really stupid. So we just use the volume mixer. Now if you want your game res to go back to normal, just change this shit right here to have your resolution consistent. Then you can just press space, and then you can just exit the game. Now the last one, this one is really important in my opinion if you're going to do any general modding, is just press Control Shift Escape, which is to open up the task manager easier. And then you're going to see this, actually by default it should look something like this. Click more details as you can see more stuff, like you can see the details tab, and then click options and then make sure this is checked. Now the reason why I say this is because if your game ever freezes, you can just press Control Shift Escape and then you can scroll down, like let's say I want to close 7-zip. So let's say it's frozen, right? I just Control Shift Escape and then I can use the arrow keys to select a game or program, and I can press delete to close it. Again, I can just boom bam. It's really good. Now if your world is invisible or you get an infinite loading screen bug, go ahead and open up the command line.txt file. And now you want to put this -available vidmem and then a number .0. Now the number you'll want to use is around your VRAM number. So what you want to do is you want to press Windows key and R at the same time and type dxdiag and then press OK. Now when it opens up, you'll see some display tabs. Just open up the one that has the GPU that runs through your game. Mine is a 1060 and it says 2900. The max you can use is 4096, and to get better results, you'll want to round the first number to the nearest gigabyte, and a gigabyte is 1024, and I have 2K, so I'll just do 2048. And also, just in case you can't change your graphics settings or something like that, you also want to add no restrictions and no mem restrict. This will just stop the game from limiting what graphics settings you can use, whether that be because your VRAM is too low or too high. And now we're going to do some performance shit. Now the first and best option is just DXVK. Now basically what I can understand from this is that it creates a shader cache so the game doesn't have to load the shaders every single time. And DXVK is only usable if you have a Vulkan compatible GPU. So you have a download link, it'll take you here. Now to download from GitHub, I think at first it can be hard to figure it out, but basically you just click on this file right here, and then it should let you download it. Now to install this, basically double click on the .tar file, open up this folder, x32, and then select these two files right here and drag them into your main directory. Now because this uses a d3d9.dll file, you're not going to be able to use EMBs unfortunately, but that's where the other version comes in. It's just a .asi file, so you should be able to use it on anything. Now if you want to know what this does, you can read this stuff right here. It's basically to do with Windows 10. So basically we're going to head into this link and then click on this file and then let it download. And when that's done, you want to select dxwrapper.asi and .ini and drag it into your main directory. Then you want to open up the .ini file with a text editor. And then you want to find drawcompat and change it to a 1. Now if you have a multi-core CPU, it will load the first core at 100% every single time. So to fix that, you just want to head down to drawcompat no proc affinity, change this to a 1. Now something I later realized is that these two, DXVK and DXWrapper, don't work too well together, because using them together can make your computer completely crash, especially if you alt tab. Also, when you're using DXVK, you want to have windowed mode, because if you don't, then sometimes you can't tab back into your game or tab out. So let's just set up a windowed mode for DXVK. And to use this, just head into your command line and type -windowed. This will make the game windowed mode. And if you want to use DXWrapper instead of DXVK, then delete D3D9 and DXGI. But if you want to use DXVK besides DXWrapper, then just delete these two files. But yeah, just keep that in mind. Now you can test out your game real quick. Now for me, DXVK makes my resolution reset every single time for some reason. Just go to your command line.txt file, do -width 1920, height 1080. Now obviously if you're not running 1080 resolution, just check your resolution and set these to how the resolution is. Now from this point you can just play the game if you want, but I'm going to go over some more stuff that you should note. The first one is to just go to your graphic settings and never use very high shadow quality, because it's just really unoptimized on the two versions that we play on. Another one is to just never use view distance and detail distance higher than like 50. It can be unoptimized, so I like to just go for like around this. I believe consoles are 38 and then 32. Now the other thing is to just turn water quality to low. This doesn't really matter too much. This is just a personal preference. Because, I mean, you're never really in the water, you're just near it, so it's always rendering, but you're not actually, like, just looking at it, so I just do that. Now, if you're using DXVK, you're going to want to play the game for, like, a while, and you want to let it build up that shader cache that I mentioned before. Now, you may notice that I'm not on the first mission. This is because I downloaded a custom save, which I want to show you how to do that in a minute. Now, you just want to go through every part of the map to let it build up that cache, and that should reduce any stuttering that you may encounter. As you can see, I've only been in this area. My game runs pretty well, and you have to keep note that I'm also recording, which also takes like a lot of FPS. Another way to get more performance is to just delete scripthook. I highly suggest deleting it if you're not going to use any mods that require it, and if you're on 1080, make sure to delete scripthook.dll as well. Anything from the downgrader doesn't use scripthook. Just make sure to read readmes to see if they require it. Now there's one more thing that you can do for performance. You can just head to your game's main directory, open up the PC folder, and stream.ini folder. You'll see this screen. You just want to change all these numbers to 409600. Now basically this lets the game use 4 GB of RAM. In my experience, this makes the game run better if you have DXVK, but if you don't use DXVK, then it'll make your game more stuttery. If you need some more performance optimization shit, then there is this blog post that will be linked in the description. It also has some possible fixes, like this thing right here you might have to follow if you have any issues. Now we're going to deal with saves. I'm just going to show you the location of your saves right now. Basically, you want to press Windows key and R at the same time and type this. Alternatively, you can head over here and just type the same shit. %appdata% is what you're going to want to type. And it'll show you here. You just want to go back a folder, local, and then head down to Rockstar Games. Click GTA 4. Save games, and then it'll be this one. If you want to know if it's the right one, you can just see dead code. Now this is the save I was using. Now if you want save games for specific missions, then you'll head to this website, gtasavegames.com, and then you can head to either these DLCs or you can head to just GTA 4, and then when you're here you'll see mission names. It'll have a location of where you're at, which is pretty interesting, but This, when you see a mission, like, okay, I don't want to spoil a game, but let's say I wanted to go to this mission, right? And I wanted to play this mission. The name here just means that it was just completed. If you want to play this mission, then just download the one that's before, and then it should work fine. Also, while this website does have a trainers section and patches section, these are just fucking trash. I don't even know why they're here. You don't want any of these garbage ass trainers. Just use Zilliqa Trainer. Now, if you want to have your saves from before downgrading, you want to head to this location, which is Documents, Rockstar Games, GTA 4, Save Games, and it should show up here. If you want to downgrade a save, drag it into here, and then it'll upload the save. Now, when it's done uploading, you'll see a screen like similar to this one. To downgrade it, just click on Modifications, click this, and then click 1080, and now you're going to want to just select a slot. Now, if you want to use the save, what you want to do is you want to head to the location I mentioned earlier, and then just drag it into here. And if you want to change the slot, you can just rename it and change the final number to something else, like 6. And now this one should be in the 6th slot. Now, to get multiplayer, I already have a video on it that goes deeper into detail. But basically what you want to do is go into the downgrade file, run this installer, and then when it's finished, load it up, change the game to Grand Theft Auto IV, then head to Tools, Launcher Settings, set your name here. Afterwards, go to Tools, Game Settings, and set the exe path to where your game is located. Now, when you're there, just select GTA IV.exe, and that's all you have to do. Afterwards, you can just right click a server, click on connect, and then when you're in game, it should give you more directions on what to do. But again, if you need more detail, be sure to check out my other video. Now, if you do want a trainer and you want a good one, do not get Simple Native Trainer because that trainer is just absolute dog shit. If you install Simple Native Trainer before you start a new game, then your phone, computers, all that shit has a chance to be completely fucked up. The worst case for this I've seen is that the person installed Simple Native Trainer before they completed the game, and on the final mission they're supposed to get a certain call, but Simple Native Trainer blocked them so they couldn't even beat the game legitimately. So obviously you don't want that shit. I highly suggest using Zilliqa Trainer. Now this trainer is just fucking massive. As you can see, this is like a huge list of what you can do. Also, this can limit your FPS, but I will have a download link in the description. That's for an older version, but obviously won't have all the latest features. Anyway, to install this, just go to download link, and then it'll take you to Omega. Just click download again. So to install this, what you want to do is head into the mod file and then drag these two ASI and .ini files into your main directory. And if you want VR support, then obviously you'll need this in your main directory. And if you need parachute support, just drag all this shit into your main directory. It's all very simple. Now here we are in game. The reason why I'm in game is to show you the controls. To open it, you'll press F7, and then to navigate, you'll use numpad, which I will show you how to reconfigure that in a second. And if you want to see more keybinds, there's a bunch on the mod page. But if you want to create hotkeys, I have a video at the right top for that. It's kind of complicated, so I don't want to remake the video, but yeah, it's there. One thing I will mention though is that if you head into the zmenu iv.ini file that you put in your main directory, and then you scroll all the way down to the keybind section, you can reconfigure the menu down and menu up part just in case you don't have a numpad or you want to change it. But yeah, you can basically just configure anything you want in here.